So you have all the powers.
Yeah, okay. So we're recording. All right, so I think I want to start with Vonnie's question, and then I'll tell you how I want to organize today's session. So Vonnie, could you ask me again, now that everyone is on?
So good afternoon to everybody again. So the question relates to the co-branding in marketing for CSOs and how does that works.
Okay. All right. Now, I didn't explain it fully, and I'm glad that Vonnie brought it up. The issue of co-branding is just a matter of operating under a joint umbrella. In other words, you have two names out there or two brands out there with the same message, providing the same message. And if you want to look at co-branding as an extension of having a high-profile patron, let's say. So when you put out a message, your brand is carrying part of it, but the personal brand of the patron or the other entity that you're working with also is adding their weight to it. So I can see us, or I can see you with your, that's not a ginger vitamin by any chance.
That's what the
That's an exact example of co-branding, you know. I mean, the Vonnie brand and Vitamalt apparently is a powerful combination, right? This refers to the Vonnie's Facebook offering. So the rest of you may not know what that is about. But Vonnie has been advertising apparently for free Vitamalt on Facebook.
Well, I never knew there was so much variety until I saw Vonnie's thing on Facebook.
You see, there you go. Yeah. I'm a ginger man myself, but apparently, you know, there are five other varieties out there. Anyhow, to come back to the co-branding. So what you're doing is you're having the full weight of the two brands, two or more brands. And a good example of that would be if you were to take your CSO and do a program jointly with UNDP SGP. So you see what that would mean is that you have your own brand and UNDP's brand coalescing to put out the message, and the expectation is that it will be more powerful because you have this other entity with you. So that's what co-branding is all about, right? Of course, you want to be very careful that you co-brand with an entity that will add value or add to your mission. So, and this
I was about to say that.
When we are talking about sportsmen and sports groups, and so, you know, you don't want an alcohol manufacturer necessarily being part of your co-branding effort, unless, as in the example I gave you, Dwight, where you use the Malta or the Vitamalt version of the product, right? So that you're still advertising, but you're still co-branding, putting out a message with a manufacturing entity that also makes spirits, right? Legal spirits, but you are not promoting that aspect of it. What you're promoting is the Vitamalt or the Carib Malta or the whatever Malta brand subset of Carib or whichever agent, Clark's Court or whoever. And I say in Clark's Court quietly because I remember last time I mentioned Clark's Court, Ms. James gave me a whole long explanation about the value of Clark's Court, and I don't want to get into that this today at all. I'm assuming that she's on, and Mr. Fletcher as well. So that would be it, Bonnie, for co-branding. That's what co-branding is all about. But you want to be sure that the brand that you are putting out your message alongside is one that is in harmony with your mission. Remember, everything comes back to your mission.
mission, yes.
Right? That is the guiding principle there is your mission. When we talk later on today, going through the notes, you'll see that they mention their mission as well, but that's the company's mission, right? For a profit type business entity. But for us in the non-profit and in the CSO world, we are tied, literally tied to our mission. And we don't want to deviate too far from that mission at all. And if you have a brand or an entity that is not in harmony with your mission, then you have a problem there. But you don't just go by appearances, because there are a number of messages that would go out from environmental groups or environmental CSOs, and they are co-branded with oil producers, oil refineries, the BPs and the Texacos of this world, and the Enrons of this world, because they recognize by aligning their brand with yours, they get to align themselves with your mission now, and not so much with their main production, their main product, which might be a polluting product. Everybody with me? Right?
Yes,
so
sir, I agree.
Yes, we hear.
It's not just a matter of just looking at the company and saying, no, we can't operate with them because they are not aligned to our mission. But if they want to be seen as being environmentally friendly as part of their corporate social responsibility, then you have to find a way in that co-branding to make sure you stress that aspect of the operation. The fact that they have, corporate environmental protocols in place, etc. Michael, you with me, or you have a query?
I'm trying to get my video.
Yeah, because I want to mark you as present, you see.
Well,
I want to send mark you as present. Yeah.
I'm outside of somebody's house.
All right, that's right.
I'm still using my phone though.
Unless you get in trouble. But just bring the phone close to your face now, so we don't see the background. We don't see how many people walking around on pages of undress.
Yeah. All right, let me try to get it.
Yeah, how about 1.5 a bit? Don't stress.
But I want to add political dimension and land back with current realities that we face.
Right.
Yesterday, or maybe the day before, Baby.com, the US company that, well, I don't know, gave baby names, speak about baby names, advertise baby names, they shared solidarity with the Black Lives Movement.
Mm-hmm.
And they put on their site, well, at the beginning of the landing page, they have a black, they blacken the page in solidarity. In our understanding, obviously there are always some financial implications and behind these political moves, right? But the Black Lives Movement, Matters movement, strictly speaking, technically speaking, is becoming a brand. Can we say that?
Definitely.
And that it is wise and prudent for a company's organization to associate with that brand.
Yes.
And how will, for example, I mean, I know it's out of where we are, but how will, for example, Baby.com benefit in a real way from associating with Black Lives Movement?
It's a matter of numbers. It's a matter of numbers and making sure that your potential clients in the Black community do not feel left out, right? It's part of showing that you are sensitive to social issues so that your white clients won't necessarily be upset, but you're definitely going to attract a lot of your Black clients, or your potential Black clients or customers. So that I disagree when you said it was more political, it's a more economic move.
Economic.
I'm not saying that they may not have a social dimension to it, in that a number of the people there may really be genuinely non-racist, right?
Right.
But I'm saying that at a time like this, you have to identify because it widens your base, right? Literally widens your base. And this is the same argument that they're using against Trump, in that by not accepting it, he is narrowing his base and thus appealing only to the overt racists. I make it quite clear, the overt racists, right? Because I mean, there's a lot of, covert racism and thing too, that's, I mean, that, again, in talking about marketing and talking about communication, these are really valid issues, because as directors and managers and employees or directors of CSOs, you are going to be stuck with this type of thing. Sorry, what's that, Glenda? Were you saying something?
It wasn't me. It wasn't me.
Oh, sorry. Okay. All right. So back to how this affects you in your daily CSO life. As a director in a CSO now in 2020, in June 2020, at some point, Black Lives Matter is going to seep into your operations at some point, because you may very well be in the midst of a USAID project. And if you're in the midst of a USAID project being administered out of a southern state, it would be difficult for you to continue operating with them. Hi, Mr. Lewis. Right? It would be difficult for you to operate with them and ignore the fact that hovering over all activities in the US at this point in time is this issue of Black Lives Matter. And you may have seen a post on your collaborators page that says something ridiculous like all lives matter, which is a very covert racist response to Black Lives Matter. So how then, as a director and a CSO, do you deal with that? Anybody? In terms of seeing the relevance of Black Lives Matter to your daily operations in a CSO in Grenada?
So could you just repeat the question?
No, it wasn't a question, it was a statement. I was saying that although we're talking about marketing for CSOs in the Grenadian context, in June 2020, you cannot operate a CSO or any kind of organization and not have a view or a position on Black Lives Matter. Because I'm saying that you may very well be funded by USAID, let's say, and the lead office in USAID that you're dealing with is in a southern state, which is, understandably expected to be a more racist state than a northeastern state, right? I don't see how you operate without at least once having a conversation around Black Lives Matter, because everything that is coming out of the US right now has that print on it, has that stamp on it. So you're either for or against. So if the people that you are dealing with have on their website that all lives matter, which is a very overt racist response, right? So ignore the Black Lives Matter thing and by saying all lives matter, which means, don't make this fuss about Black Lives Matter. I mean, all lives matter. So white people right, have no reason to take all your this, right? And that's the question I was asking. What, how do you see that playing out as a Grenadian in a Grenadian CSO in June 2020? Do you see the connection?
Yes. And I must say, I'm going back to what you would have taught us in terms of the way we approach situations like that. We must first understand our donors and what the principles and policy, what they stand for, and we have to be able to communicate or relate to them in a situation. So in a case where we needed the funding, we would have to indicate something that basically aligns with the organization and the concept and the precepts of things. So that is how I see the route that we should actually go. Even though we have our own opinion, we can use it and share it on a different platform. Not to do that.
Yeah, that is possible. But if you deal with them directly, how do you deal with, I'm using USA specific, and that it might be out of an office, let's say in Georgia, right? An Atlanta office, or office out in Mississippi or Alabama, where you expect, may not be true, but you expect that you will have a more racist tinge to operations coming out of those states, right? As opposed to if you were dealing with New York, right? I am saying that as a director and a CSO, you have to be aware of the fact that Black lives matter, and that if you're dealing with people who, in principle, do not agree that there's need for reform and police reform and all that, it will be difficult for you to have a decent, honest relationship with them without at least mentioning it.
Yes.
That's the point I make, right?
Yeah, and that's true.
Right. So.
And can I just make a statement?
Please.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. I'm going back to when we started class and we did that section on what's trending,
right,
and what donors every couple of years, certain taglines and certain we put cause would become important, like global warming. You have women's rights. You have, and then there are certain things, specific words that they look for when you're doing your proposal or engaging them.
Yep.
Sustainable, inclusion, and those kinds of keywords and statements. And it would be part of their mandate, their own mission. And so going forward, as to these are the things they are looking for. So as a CSO targeting funding, maybe from USAID, but it's coming from an office-based, I think, yes, it's important. We have to know what's going on in that country, in the state. But I think what's trending will always guide a CSO, especially something globally trending, will guide us as to how to design our proposal and design our marketing plan to fit into that, using all the keywords and so to get in there, to get what it is we want from the organization. And of course, we have to also affiliate ourselves with the positive trends to benefit.
Yeah, agreed. And the thing is that it is going to be extremely difficult for you to operate in a bubble.
Yes.
Operate here in Grenada as if nothing else is going on out there. I mean, you couldn't escape the COVID. You can't escape Black Lives Matter. You couldn't escape climate change. You couldn't explain a whole lot of those other trending things. I mean, you can't isolate yourself from gay rights and that type of activism. Because in a lot of the documents that you're signing now, very explicit statements about inclusion, as Jeanette quite rightly mentioned earlier. So once they talk about inclusion, what they really mean is they include all of these marginalized groups, which as a country, as a society, as a religion, as a church, as a grouping, you may not necessarily agree with, but you have to realize that the people who control the resources that you are seeking to explore, to garner, that is how they look at inclusion. When they talk about inclusion, they're talking about that. And in the same way that you wouldn't want to have a proposal where you're specifically excluding women and youth, in the same way, you can't have a proposal where you're excluding people with different sexual orientations, depending on the organization. You have to decide as a institution whether you're going to, fight it and say, look, we want the money for these people. That's all. Go ahead, Natasha. Was it Natasha?
Oh, sorry. Or is it me?
Belinda wanted to say something. Go ahead, Belinda, and then I'll speak
Okay.
after you.
Right.
Yep,
I was
go ahead.
saying, even though our donor would be quote unquote racist,
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe that we should stand up as a team and try to pretend
Mm-hmm.
that we may not be siding, with Black Lives Matters.
Mm-hmm.
In my view, the least we say might be the better first in that manner.
Mm-hmm.
What do
Yeah,
you think?
I can understand that. I mean, I'm not saying that you're going to go and tackle them head on, and go to their Facebook page and say, how could you not support Black Lives Matter? But I'm saying that when it comes to interacting with them personally, because the more involved you get with them, project, you may have a project to implement, they may very well forget themselves and send a racist evaluator down here to evaluate the project.
To evaluate.
What do you
Okay,
think?
normally what I would do, right? If I notice, okay, so I'm an NNP. If I'm chatting with an NDC person,
Mm-hmm.
I honestly will try to stay away from the politics because I know where they stand.
Right.
I would bring up all other topics than the politics topic.
Right.
And if it happens to come up, I would more or less shift it to a side,
Mm-hmm.
trying to be neutral.
Right.
So it doesn't come across like I say one, you say one, and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So in that way, we can just try to keep it neutral, or don't mention or don't go down that side at all.
I mean, that is easier said than done, as you'd appreciate. It depends on the dynamic, the interpersonal skills of the individuals involved. Because if you come across a real hardcore NNP or NDC, and they see everything through a particular lens, regardless of what you say, they will always see a problem. It will always be that, we could have done it better. If we were in charge, we would have done it differently and better. And you don't want to get into that, right? But you want to approach it from the point of view of, okay, I respect the fact that you have a different opinion. We're good up to that point. If it becomes an issue of how we are going to proceed, what if the person says, look, we're not going to support this program because there's somebody from NNP involved in it, or there's somebody from NDC involved in it, How would you deal with that? Yeah?
Yep.
May I give an input?
All right. So I was just thinking, right? If we are placed in such a position, then is it me or I lost?
I'm not hearing you, Natasha. Could you repeat? Yeah.
It seems as though I got disconnected.
Yes, you're having internet issues, I would think. Tell us again, what were you saying?
Atisha, then?
Oh, okay. You're hearing me?
We're hearing you now, yeah.
Okay. Yes, I was wondering, right? In such a position, we as an organization might, just to add to what both Glenda and Jeanette would have stated before, on the other side of the coin, we are at a position where we can also put forward, since our population is made up of a cross-section of the ethnic group that is affected, then we have a unique opportunity now, even to bring forward as a proposal how we can groom the population that we have now going forward, even to deal with the issues that they're faced out there, especially through people migrating and all of those things. So it's like a preparedness of the ethnic group in that kind of context. I'm looking at it, because if we are to ask the UNICEF or whosoever it is, or USAID, for funding and so forth, right?
Mm-hmm.
We can swing it in regards to the effect that how it's going to fit in based on our population. From that context, I am looking at it.
Yeah, no, that is acceptable. That is easy, and I think it is what helped motivate. I mean, those of you who watched Beyond the Headlines last night, right, where there was an attempt to, I didn't get to see it, but I saw from Odette's explanation that they were going to be looking at Black Lives Matter in the context of the diaspora, and and how it impacts us here. All of us have relatives in the US, I mean, or in the UK, or in some other non-Black led country. So it behooves us, literally, it is in our best interest to understand what the thing is about, how it started, where its currency is coming from, and what are some of the dangers of just jumping up and claiming Black Lives Matter. Because as with every movement, there are obviously little splinter groups there that are looking to push more than just Black Lives Matter. And there are those who are going to be pushing Black Lives Matter more, which as you know, is a big deviation from the original statement. It's one thing for you to say Black Lives Matter. If you are the part, the splinter group that says Black Lives Matter more, then you're just as racist as the white people who were talking about all lives matter. So I'm just saying, without getting into, the whole, the depth of the thing, which is outside the scope of our course, but it's just in terms of the marketing and the messaging and the co-branding, which is where we started on the whole topic of co-branding. You do not want to be associated with a brand or an entity that does not have a very clear message, right? Let me see if I can put it into a different kind of historical context. In 1970, NJAC in Trinidad was, I'm using Trinidad examples, I'm using examples. Somebody's mic is on. Michael, I think is your mic on? Somebody's mic is on and we're getting a lot of feedback. All right. Yeah, so I'm using a 1970 Trinidad example. So in 1970, Black Power Revolution, NJAC, as a National Joint Action Committee, was the, if you want to put it this way, the legitimate Black conscious brand or the legitimate Black conscious entity. Everybody hear me? Not if you hear me, right? But associated with that, or as a splinter of that, you also had NUF. This was the National Union of Freedom Fighters. And if you ever deviated, I mean, I was a supporter of NJAC, cool. But when somebody from NUF attempted to recruit me as a 14-year-old, I had to kind of draw the line there because they're talking about armed revolution now instead of the activism that was part of NJAC, right? So I'm just telling you that in every context, there's something to being associated with a particular brand. So not everybody that had the fist in the air shouting power was talking about just Black power as a movement, as a means to an end. There were also the splinter groups who didn't only see it as Black power, but in terms of reordering the society, taken from the wealthy and the whites, and that type of thing, which wasn't what the mainstream was buying at the time. So I'm saying that with every movement, with every brand, you have to be sure that the brand image is quite clear and their mission is quite clear. And it's the same thing could apply whether you're talking about an oil company helping to sponsor your environmental cleanup or a water company. I mean, let's look at it. A water company assisting you with your environmental drive might seem to be a really nice fit. But what if that water company was extracting water from a community watershed or from a national watershed and bottling it and selling it at a profit? Do you still want to be associated with that organization, even though it seems to be a natural fit? I mean, here you're talking about water, environment, water seems to be a fairly decent link, but you have water companies that are extracting illegally, right, in some countries. Okay, Anybody not
Yeah, but
not clear on that?
So
but so what you just explained.
Hold on, Natasha. Let me hear you, Natasha.
What you just explained there,
Mm-hmm.
if we look at the whole riot and the marching and stuff in the street and all of that, if you look carefully, you can see even in all of that what you explained there coming through with the various groups that have
That's
a different agenda, but is piggybacking on the movement that is going forward at that point in time to push their own agenda, but they do not come out in daylight. It's like, they work within, so the backlash now would not fall on them to prevent their movement, but the movement that is moving forward with positivity.
Yeah. I mean, as I said, there are gradient examples, but I'm not getting into the gradient examples. I'm going to stick to the Trinidad examples, where I'm a voter down there, and I could afford to get a good lawyer down there, right? I'm not too sure if Ruggles could defend me up here, right? So when we talk about co-branding, I mean, which is where we started, you want to be sure that the entity, whether it be a group, an organization, an individual as a patron, and so that when that person comes on board with their brand, that you want to be aligned with that brand. Otherwise, your whole co-branding effort becomes you're shooting yourself in the foot. Because instead of getting your message out and advancing your brand and advancing the message and accomplishing your mission, you're actually shooting yourself in the foot by having this set of dead weight with you, right? Because the public is a very discerning public. I mean, people always go about saying, so and so fooling the public and fooling the public. Very few times you fool the public. People are seeking their own interests. So what looks like if you're fooling the public is not really fooling the public. The public has a clear understanding of what's going on, and they are choosing based on what they see in their own interests. Okay? So Vonnie,
I know Vonnie has to go, but
Vonnie, and then Glenda, sorry.
I think what I wanted to say then, it goes back to a point that
Somebody else's mic is on, I'm sure. Go ahead, Vonnie.
It goes back to a point that we labored on in the past, concerning about one, ensuring that the marketing process begins within the organization. That's one. And two, ensure that when it goes out to the public, that these co-branding is not a happenstance. They are planned and publicized properly and informing the public, and if ever it happens that you need to debrand from that brand, you go back to the public and tell the public, this has happened, we cannot continue with this operation, and so we are distancing ourselves.
Yeah, and just as a teaser only, and I'm not going to get into any discussion, just go back to the whole Cameron Park issue, right? You start off with legitimate protest about, access to the beach, but then it got caught up in all kinds of other little flavors, with people having their own separate and independent agendas that they were lumping into the whole Cameron Park process. So that if you got up publicly and said, I'm supporting the protesters, you have to be very clear into what aspects of it, what slices of it you're really agreeing with, and whether you're agreeing with the more expansive view of what government was doing, as opposed to not wanting a hotel having control over access to what you saw as community property, right? And for those of you who are old enough and conscious enough and would have been aware enough, that was the basis of Gabby's calypso about Jack. Jack don't want me to bathe on the land. I mean, back in Barbados in the 70s, there was a minister of tourism who actually started barricading beaches, right? This was in the era before it was law that nationals of a country must always have access to their beaches. So that a hotel can, I mean, you can look at, let's take Alamanda for example. Alamanda can have their picket fence on their property, but they can't stop you from being in line with Alamanda's picket fence on Granans Beach, right? And similarly with all the other hotels on that on Granans, right? What some hoteliers have been able to do, especially, and I'm going to use examples outside of Grenada now. What Sanders Latok has been able to do is that you buy a property where the beach is only accessible through the property that you own, so that people can't exactly walk around and come to Sanders Latok. So Sanders Latok in St. Lucia is literally landlocked. So that although you tell people that, I mean, of course you have access to the beach, but it's just that you have to walk through Sanders property to get there, right? I'll leave it at that. Glenda.
Yes, sir. And you brought across that point very nicely when you relate this thing back to Camohan Park, because what I was saying about situation in America, I saw this young lady in an interview, and what she based, well, not interview, she was basically airing her views. And what she said is, in the midst of all what's happening, while some persons have their own agenda and they're going beyond what some persons are doing, she was really hurting, and she was, emotional about the whole thing. She said the message here, let's not lose sight of the message. The message here is that, the Black lives really matter, and the things that are happening, and the way the Blacks would have fight to build certain states and certain villages, and the way they would have just destroyed it. And she related to Monopoly game, the way you play for how many turns, and whatever you would have earned, you're giving it back to the white man. And now it's your turn to get something, and instead look at what's happening to you. So they're saying how the country is the one that basically robbing these people, and the way they would have come to work in different areas to develop the country, and yet for all, Black people does not have anything to show for it.
Yeah.
So she basically wanted persons to focus on the message and not what's happening around, because what's happening around is because of the problems they face with, the advantages that persons are faced with. She said it's unfortunate, but she kind of expressed herself. I mean, the video was a bit graphic, and she thought that more should burn down, and what she said afterwards is that it's a good thing that the Black people are not about trying to create destruction or damage, but more or less fighting for justice,
Yeah. As I said, there will always be these splinter groups, these tacons, people looking to, under the guise of being supportive of the particular cause, they have their own agenda and they run in parallel with you until nightfall when they start to loot. So, all right. Now, thanks, Bonnie, for that session there on co-branding. One of the things I want to repeat before we go on to look at the notes that I shared with you earlier is that I want to come back to what this course is all about. I am really, really pleased that we can always find, I mean, we have never had a class, and I think we can boast about this as a group. We have never had a class that did not address a current pressing issue. I mean, from even when we were talking, even before COVID, right? We were talking about, what would happen if you had cases, blah, 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 blah. And I think it is important going forward that we not only appreciate that we have always been able to pull real life examples, whether it be in terms of a GCF proposal, registering your own your own CSO, etc. That we understand that as varied and as dynamic as the information is, that we're really focusing on a course of study that will get you an associate degree in this brand new area of sustainable community development, right? So with that said, let me just remind all of us what the specific objectives of this particular course are, right? And then listen to me carefully, and if you have anything to interject, please say. So the specific objectives are to provide the key features of a marketing plan suitable for CSOs, right? We're going to be doing steps in our marketing plan later today. Present clear methods for the determination of the unique characteristics of a CSO, because we said that thing about the unique characteristics of the CSO, what makes our CSO unique, this is going to be the major selling point for us. To prepare participants to align the message with the core values of the organization. Remember, to prepare participants, to align the message to the core values of the organization. And then to critically assess the value proposition associated with any marketing plan. And we're going to talk about that a little later, if not today, on Tuesday when we get together again. Right? So with those specific objectives in mind, I developed a course content that you have, right? Which starts off with defining marketing, getting on to the rationale. Then we talk about it, look at 5 questions. Then we talk about outlining the marketing plan, which is what we're going to do in a little bit. And then talk about specific activities like the situation analysis, how you target a particular audience. The CSO mission and vision, I mean, again, it comes up again and again. How you highlight the unique aspects of your CSO. Again, what makes your CSO different? And as much as we are teaching a course or doing a course on CSOs and CSO branding, we're also dealing with personal branding as well. And I hope that a lot of you are seeing how you can apply some of what you learned under the guise of CSO to your own personal branding. What is so unique about your contribution? Why are you irreplaceable at work? Let me change that. Do you think you are irreplaceable at work? Do you think that you have a unique combination of skills that if they were to fire you tomorrow, or you were to resign tomorrow, nobody else could come and fit in and do exactly all those things at the level that you do it in the next 6 months or so? Yeah. And if you never thought of yourself like that, then you have to ask yourself, why not? Why aren't you unique? Why aren't you one of a kind in terms of how you operate, where you operate? So whether you're working in youth affairs, or you're working in statistics, or you're catering, or whatever you're doing, what it is that is making your operation unique? What makes your operations and your skill set stand out? Is it a combination of your education, your experience, your personality? Because there are some jobs and some operations that require a particular personality type. I mean, not everybody is designed for customer service. Let's face it. Not everybody has that kind of effervescent personality where you want to be interacting with the public every day. I went to school with a lot of people who I know, they should never be in front of the public. They should be in a back room, very, very bright, but not personable at all. They should be in a back room crunching out numbers or crunching out some kind of program or so, but you don't want them to talk to people. Literally, you don't want them to talk to people at all because you know that that is not their gift, right? So as we learn more about marketing and messaging and communication, we want to be sure that we can apply it to our own lives and our own brand. And that when we do decide to co-brand, that we align ourselves with brands that are in keeping with our own mission, our personal mission, and our personal core values. Okay? Comments, questions, concerns? Michael, you want to know how much I enjoy watching you today? Any concerns, comments, questions? None. Okay, cool. All right.
Just a comment, sir.
Yeah.
Just reflecting on what you just said in regards to, asking ourselves the question in the area that we are presently in and reflecting. If we all go to do that, right, and bring ourselves up to the standard, what a rippling effect it will have on the organization that will be forming, because all of those things will be boiling back down into the organization and making it even more unique in regards to its operations.
Yeah, but I mean,
So I just,
don't get me wrong, eh? I'm not describing utopia, because let us be very frank, eh? You could be doing the best job in the world. If the organization as a whole isn't as yet ready, you're going to find yourself sticking out like a sore thumb, eh? And you may very well find that, like the nail that's sticking out, you're the one that's going to get hammered most of the time, because people are going to find you feel you're too bright. Since when you know so much, why you feel you can run this place, stuff like that. So let's not get carried away. I mean, I'm not telling you all this for your own personal advancement, but it is not implied that just because you're doing the best job you can, that the organization will just wake up next morning and say, "Oh, thank God we have Linda with us." No. That it doesn't work like that, right? This is for your own personal satisfaction, your own personal growth. You may very well find that if you do that type of analysis, you have outgrown that organization a long time ago. And that is the reality. You may very well find that if you are at the stage of self-actualization that I'm describing, that you may very well have outgrown that organization already. So that you can't blame them for not seeing your work, because it just is beyond them. I mean, I'm not saying that your boss is a fool or anything like that. I'm just saying that the way the organization is structured, your contribution, you are making a contribution above what your pay grade is and what your level of appreciation will be. So if you're comfortable working above your pay grade and just the satisfaction of knowing that you're doing a good job, fine. But I'm just telling you that just because you're doing a good job, perfect, a near perfect job, doesn't necessarily follow that the organization is going to jump up one day and say, praise Natasha, praise Sabi, or praise Sharam, right? It doesn't work like that, right? In the real world, you could be there toiling away, doing the very best job you can, and the organization itself isn't ready for you yet, right? You may be way ahead of the organization. And when we coming closer to the end of this course, when you're about to graduate, and then hopefully we'll be able to have a conversation on how you value your own efforts. Because remember, we keep talking about how you value the efforts of people in an organization, eh? And I keep telling you that you value it based on what the economy is willing to pay you now. But the economy could be shortchanging you for years, right? So that's not good there yet, right? Glenda.
I wanted to add something, and you touched the same point. That is where self-evaluation come into play, and where you sit and you assess yourself where you are, where you would want to be, what you see you doing so far, how are you unpacking the environment in which you operate, and all of this thing. And it is so important. And I mean, I could share a little example with myself. I worked in one place, and when I moved on, the bosses realized what was going on. They offered me a bigger position, but it wasn't about the position anymore. And I was already stepping, so I just continue stepping.
Yeah. And as I say,
because I would have outgrown the company.
It is very easy to do that. It's very easy to do that. And but the other thing, two things I want to add, so that I'm very clear, because I'm very clear on this. One, you do not burn bridges, right?
No, sir.
You do not wake up one morning realizing that you're so bright and the rest of them don't know what they're doing. And you get up and you tell your boss and everybody else, you see all you here, or you will never see somebody like me again. I move in, I go in. But I have practical examples of that, where I had colleagues who got scholarships and thing, and sure they were going away to study and thing, and cost from captain to cook. And then this
Oh, no, sir. That is one good advice you gave, Dee, because I can tell you 10 years later, I was able to even get a letter from the company saying X, and they were willing to do even more.
Yeah, there you go. That's the first thing. So you're not burning bridges. And the other thing too is that you are not becoming so self-absorbed that now that you know you're bright, you start to act out, right? Always,
humility.
You learn something every day you go to a job. Even with all due respect, a shitty job, you learn something every day. If you don't learn how to handle ignorant people, you learn how to handle stupid people. You learn how to handle people who are not motivated. So even though you may be in an environment where you're not growing in terms of the challenges at work, you are gaining experience. Because let's face it, you may very well leave that organization and go to another one that looks rosier from the outside. But when you get in there, you realize that, look, now, there are stupid people here too, right? There are stupid people all over the place, all right? So the two things you don't want to do, you don't want to burn the bridges, and you don't want to feel that you're not learning everything. Every day you spend there, every month you spend there, you learn something, you learn a new skill. And if you're upgrading your CV, as I mentioned, in very first class, right? That is where upgrading your CV comes in. Because these are the skills that you're learning now. You're learning how to handle it yet. I mean, that is not an easy skill. It's not, and the brighter you become, the more difficult it becomes to hear people talk stupidness. You see, when you're stupid too and they're talking stupid, it's not a problem, you know, because, oh, you're stupid anyhow, so it don't ring a bell to you. But when you start getting bright and the people around you stay stupid, you have a real problem, because that is a skill by itself. How do you then tiptoe through all that stupidity without putting on ears, you know? And the same people you used to go to lunch with and things, you outgrow them. You cannot sit down with them because they can't carry on an intelligent conversation as far as you are concerned, right? And it happens with organizations as well. So all of this I'm telling you is not about, you know, some airy-fairy pie in the sky thing. This is the very real world we're talking about, right? So that the organization itself will start off with 12 or 15 brand new graduates. Everybody have their associate degree. Everybody have done thing and they're ready. And then one or two of you might outgrow it. And you have to leave, right? But you will have learned over the years that just because you're bright now doesn't mean that, you know, that you're not learning anything from people who you don't consider to be as bright as you are or as experienced as you are along. All right? So anybody else? Any other comments?
I will just say, well said, sir.
All right. Anybody else? There's some people I haven't heard from the D, for the D, like Ms. Charles, Mrs. Charles, Mrs. Sandy, Carmel. Who will keep up?
Well said, sir. We
Richard?
should not burn our bridges. Definitely, I agree.
Definitely. Nicholson? Matisse? You good?
So I want to say something since
You're
no
awake?
one wants to speak.
Hold on a second, Linda. Yeah. You're awake, Ms. Matisse?
I'm not sleeping.
All right, but not necessarily awake. All right, cool. I like
But-
the distinction. Leave it at that. I am going with that.
But what I would say is that when it comes to marketing, I don't see marketing just only for the CS. So I'm seeing marketing for myself as well, because
Of course.
I do business. So whatever is being said in class, I apply to my little business that I am doing and
Good.
trying to progress from there.
Good. Definitively. As I say, remember I keep harping on my distinction between education and training. This thing that we're doing here, we ain't training people, you know, we're talking about a general education at university. Everything you pick up, you want to get those schemata growing, this schema growing, and be able to link it to everything you're doing in ordinary life, right? Cool. All right. So that was my bit of preaching where they.
So I was trying to say something.
Oh, yeah, sorry, Glenda, sorry.
No, that's okay. You were so correct in mentioning not because you might think somebody is quote unquote stupid that you can't learn something from them. And I would just push it back a bit and say, if we as individuals humble ourselves rather than try to exalt ourselves, then we will be exalted by others who would have seen what we can do or is doing. And I say this to say that not because you might figure what you're saying might sound stupid, you shouldn't say it. You should say it, because when you have a question, you ask it. When you're not sure about something, you ask it. That's the way you learn. That's the way you build. That's the way you develop. And even so, I'm saying this more so for our group here, because we all are important to each other, just like the body. No part is the same and no part is more important than one, because though I might have a head, without a head, the body can't function. Without a foot, your body can hardly get to where it's going, and you need something else to carry you, you know. And I'm saying this to say that all of our contributions are important towards this development of this CSO here.
Definitely, and I'm waiting for correction if I got it wrong. I hope that I have always given everyone the understanding and the knowledge that they can stop me at any time, ask a question at any time, and that, you know, the whole idea of stupid questions went out the door from the very first class. And there's no such thing as a stupid question, right? And I have my own style, of course, you know what I mean? So I might make fun of some people, but I don't think anybody here genuinely thinks that I pick on them, you know. Well, with the exception of you and Sharama and Natisha and, like, well, with the exception of about 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 or 12 people, I don't really pick on anybody, right? So the Karens and things of this world, all them know that, you know, I love them to death, right? Even though I might mark them harder than everybody else and give them a G and things, but yeah.
So I don't see that speaking, because that G is important to me. I remember that G for the rest of my life, you know?
That's the best grade you ever get in your life. All right? And so then people who are supposed to fail to get good grades too, you know, people who park next to me and think. Anyhow, I promise I wasn't going to bring that up again for at least 10 minutes. All right. So today's note, and we're going to go for about another 15, 20 minutes, right? Because as I say, I don't want to overstay my welcome. I want to stay sharp and exciting for, you know, hour and a half or 45 minutes, so that we don't ever get tired of one another. All right. So the note 5, I pulled these from the web, and these are articles that I would have used in my time as a director, or, you know, or person developing a CSO and so forth.
So are you sharing your screen, or should we go through it?
No. I give you notes. Don't go to the notes. Just follow it, right? That's why I wanted it to keep your cameras on, so that I could, you know, so you could nod and I could see, you know, I can see on your faces if I'm losing you, or if you're with me. I said, don't try to read it now, right? You have, I gave you your own copy so you can read it at your leisure. But before I go into that, I want to say something else about the format of these classes. I've already contracted a marketing expert. This is a woman that I'm really, really, really impressed with. She runs her own marketing company here, and she has agreed to do a session with us maybe in the next week and a half or so, right? But like all these, you know, these experts, and then they want to know what topic you have to talk about. And I said, look, just come and talk, man. These are big people in there, just come and talk marketing. But she's insisting that she wants to have a formal this, and so while I work on her to make sure that she don't come and do any formal thing, I just want somebody here that you all could throw questions at, somebody from the real world of marketing, right? And second to that, I've asked my wife to do a session with you guys. Again, she too, because, you know, these experts, they always, you know, what topic? And all I wanted to do is just do TTA. As I keep talking about the Trinidad and Tobago Endometriosis Association as if it's my association. But I was only sure, so it's really my association, my wife association. Right? And I think it would be better if you hear it from her, you know, but the impact of Mrs. Hassanali, you know, that type of thing, you know. Somebody who has actually walked the walk, you know, as opposed to the husband who's going to be talking it out, you know, and boasting on the sidelines and things, you know. But this is the woman who actually do it, right? So I'm hoping that she'll give us an hour sometime there. And of course, I ain't paying her, so that's another piece of negotiation there. But I'm hoping that she will do something maybe next week, Tuesday or so, right? So that you all won't always have to put up with me. Because I know it's hard to put up with me all the time. So you have two experts, two real experts, as opposed to me who, you know, bobbing and weaving and things. All right. So we're going to talk about the key components of a marketing plan, right? Now, I've pulled 2 articles from the web. One deals with 10 points, a 10-point marketing plan. The other deals with a 7-point marketing plan. But when you read it, you'll see that they're similar. So what I'll do, I'll go through 10.1 with you now. And then on your own, you'll read the... Sorry? What was that?
But I'm not hearing anything at all.
Natasha?
Letitia, your mic is off, but we're still hearing you. Something ain't right.
Yeah, well, we are hearing you if you're not hearing us. Anyhow, I'm continuing. Natasha, check your connection now. I have a feeling you're having some internet issues. So now the guy who did the 10 key components is somebody with marketing experience and marketing plan experience. And one of the points he made that really impressed me, and as somebody who has had to work on major marketing plans in big organizations and so on, sometimes you get a 200-page marketing plan that costs $15,000 as done by a consultant. And then you have another in-house plan, 6 or 7 pages, done internally. And sometimes the 200-page plan ends up on a shelf somewhere and is never implemented. And the smaller in-house one, because it's more focused and because it's more relevant, gets implemented and has major impact, all right? So the first thing he's saying is that, you know, don't be scared to develop a marketing plan on your own, right? And the first item he says is market research. He says you must collect, organize, and write down the data about the market that you are hoping to sell your product or your service to. And we already started doing that. I mean, I always have to thank Belinda. I mean, Belinda hit us a comprehensive list. I remember that evening when she said they have, what, 200 or 300 or how many of us here. So everybody stood down with their mouth open because, you know, as far as the books go, there are so many CSOs out there. So we already know what our client base, you know, what our customer base looks like, right? Because Belinda would have done at least that initial thing. And when we go on to do the more in-depth research, you know, we'll be able to find out just who our consumers are. And not every service that we are selling will have to go to another CSO. You know, we could be selling services to directors or potential directors or members. How many of you remember was it Kenya or somebody who shared a clip with us on the fishermen? There were some fishermen complaining and they go up about the association they belong to, and you know, they never see the books and they never see this and they never see that. I mean, an organization like ours would be in a position to advise, you know, potential members of other CSOs or ex-members, people who would have been expelled, you know, who would come and, you know, understand, look, these are some of the protocols that should have been in place. Or if you had them in place in your bylaws, you would not have had this kind of, you know, apparent misappropriation and that type of thing. Okay? Everybody with me? If you're not with me, stop me, please, okay? Ronnie?
We're with you, we're with you.
Right. Okay, cool. The second point he says is you must have a target market, right? So your research is more general in terms of the potential clients, but you must zero in on your target market now for the particular service or product that you have, that you want to sell at the marketing. And the third one he has is product. Describe your product. How does your product relate to the market? In other words, what does your market need? What do they currently use? What do they need above and beyond current use? So there you go. So how do the CSOs in Grenada operate as it stands now? Where do they get their support, advice, leadership training, all those kinds of things? Are they getting it from fly-by-night experts from Trinidad like me, or from bigger organizations in the US and Canada who, you know, come down and run expensive programs, you know, paid for by international agencies and so on, that turn out not to be relevant, whereas you have a CSO here whose major focus is on raising the standard, if I remember your mission correctly, raising the standard of CSOs in Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martin. 4 is related to it. It talks about the competition. Describe your competition. It's all good and well for us to say that, oh, we are unique CSO. They have no other CSO like us, but there are individuals who have the same skills that we're supposed to be selling. how do we stack up against them? How do you stack up against a Steve Maxime, right? Because if my involvement with CSOs in Grenada came out of this UNDP consultancy, why did I get it and not somebody else? Well, I can explain that to you in 2 words: for free. Because I did that first one for free. So that is probably why I got it, right? Because they weren't even thinking in terms of having a paid consultancy to look at CSOs and green, right? So it was due to the astute forward thinking of Dr. Telesford, whom most of you met that evening when he came to the class, right? He was the one who literally saw into the future and realized that, look, if we found a way to assess all of these CSOs currently operating, or that were willing to be part of the study, then we could amalgamate all of their needs. Are you guys listening to me? Amalgamate all of their needs and then fashion a program to address those needs, which is what this course is meant to do, right? This program is meant to do, this associate degree is meant to do, right?
I'm back.
Yeah. Sorry, Janet.
I just came back in.
Oh, okay, right. So that takes care of the combination. Now, 5 is your mission statement. Now, they are talking from the point of view of a for-profit company, but we know that our mission statement is, our credo. So we don't even have to worry about that at all because we know we have a proper mission statement. So we don't have to worry about this section. Then you're talking about the market strategies, and this is where a lot of the time is going to be spent on. Jeanette, if you missed it, were you listening or were you out? You're out.
Yeah, I was out. I had to attend another meeting.
Okay, all right, but we're actually talking about the 10-point marketing plan that I circulated earlier on WhatsApp. So when you get a chance to go on WhatsApp, you'll see that I sent you guys a PDF, a note 5, right? And I'm now going through the 10 points, sorry. And we are number 6. And number 6 has to do with market strategies.
Open on the computer, so I'll check it.
Yeah. As I say, we're not following it on the. I'm reading it out, right? The rest, I would just want people to listen, and ask questions as appropriate. So what they're suggesting, what the guy is suggesting, from whom I copied the article, is that you should write down the marketing and promotion strategies that you want to use, or at least consider using. So the strategies that you might want to consider would be networking, go where your market is, how do you interact with the CSOs or the individuals that are your prime market. Do you want to do direct marketing? Do you want to do advertising, print media, and directory? Do you want to run training programs to increase awareness? Now, you see, not all training programs are going to be remedial. There are some training programs that you put on that are very promotional, because there are a number of times when you have unfelt needs. There are felt needs and unfelt needs, so that the CSO may not even have a clue as to what they need. So if you did an awareness training, awareness program, where you start exposing them to what they need, then they have to come to you now to do the actual remedial training for a fee or for whatever arrangement the CSO decides to incorporate. Everybody still with me? Cool. So you want, this is something we talked about last week. You want to write articles, you want to give advice, you want to become known as an expert. You want to become known as an entity that understands the trials and tribulations of CSOs. Because it's who in the kitchen will really feel the heat. So if you could empathize, when you can speak from the point of view, if I use myself as an example, when I talk about some of these issues that face CSOs, I do not have to relate to an article or to something I read in a book. I try to use real life examples from the CSOs that I was part of or affiliated to or had people connected with, etc. That is what separates you from the newly minted expert by reading or expert by study, right? As opposed to expert by experience. And how do you get that experience? By volunteering, which I have said a million times in this since I started interacting with you guys. So do you want to do press releases? Now, I remember when I took up the job as the first business manager in a science faculty in UWI, the whole issue of press releases was something that wasn't understood properly at all, because in those days, UWI did not have the competent marketing department they have now. So that there was this perception that a press release was just, you type out everything that you're going to be doing and you send it to the newspaper. But when we started delving into proper press releases and I started cultivating a relationship with journalists and people in the media, and so you realize that one of the things that newspapers love is photographs. And that if you're having a seminar with an international expert, somebody coming down from the UK to do some talk or seminar for you, and so, and you just send them a whole page of copy, but they refer to as copy, that is going to get lost in it, as opposed to a press release that comes with a picture of the individual, right? That raises the level of interest. Sometimes just a picture of the venue, because a lot of people aren't aware of how beautiful the St. Augustine campus is, let's say. You do a picture of admin building along with a press release, and you'd be surprised how in those days, I'm not too sure what the protocol is now, but in those days, the newspapers would jump at that, you know? So even in terms of how we develop press releases, and so those things come up. Trade shows, right? A number of times people see organizations advertising in trade shows, and they keep wondering, well, you know, they spend all that money to do a fancy booth and things. They have already done the calculations. Sometimes one client will pay for that entire exhibit if you got a big enough client, right? So trade shows and so are important. Of course, your websites and your Facebooks and that type of thing. Number 7, he has it as pricing, positioning, and branding. From the information you've collected, you need to establish strategies for determining the price of your product, where your product will be positioned in the market, and how you will achieve brand awareness. Let us relate that to our CSO. So you go out there, you have a marketing strategy, you do your marketing research, and you realize that, okay, consultants who do what your organization can do or is willing to do, they charge 5,000 EC a session. Okay, you have to now decide, you know, do you want to battle in that market at the 5,000 EC level, or do you want to go at a lower price because you're not as well known as the consultants who are putting down the 5,000 EC, or do you want to ensure that you justify a $5,000 price by, one, looking at what the current experts give? So let's assume they have some bright fella from Trinidad who came up to do a training session. Man came up, he talked for, you know, he talked for the 5 hours or whatever it is, probably get them some little cheap looking paper handout or so, you know, nothing else. Whereas as a homegrown entity, you could come with video. You could leave, everybody leaving the training session should be able to leave a link that sends them to video, and so that is relevant to their activities in their context, in their country, and that also promotes what you are doing, right? So it is not only about pricing in terms of, okay, since the experts charge $5,000 and we now started, we will charge $4,000. No, you could probably still charge $5,000 as well. But you have to prove or show to the entities that you're trying to target that your $5,000 product is going to be superior to what they got from the expert that came from Barbados, CPDC, or Trinidad or wherever. Everybody with me? I don't want to go on unless I'm sure that you're with me.
I'm with you. But I also have a question.
Please.
I think in the beginning, number one you said was research in the market, right? Even in that research, wouldn't it help you in regards to determining your price? Because then you might have information regarding maybe
what other people charge?
No, not only what other people charge, but based on where your target group can reach.
I'm glad you raised that point. No, that is a very, very important point, Natasha. Now let me tell you why I'm saying that. And I hope nausea doesn't jump down my throat for this. But especially when you're dealing with CSOs, right, and nonprofits, if you go by what they say they can afford, you're going to find yourself in real deep water. Because most nonprofits, and those that haven't been blessed with your guidance, or those that haven't spoken to people like me, still think they're operating in the $1,000 category. They still feel they didn't have no resources. You know, when you ask them what the annual budget was, they didn't have no annual budget. The members don't even pay dues, you know. They haven't been properly channeled to value their services. So that if you're going there expecting to hear them say that the last consultant they paid 5,000 US to do a one-day session, you will never hear that, right? Because traditionally CSOs see themselves as cash strapped, and you know, and then, how are you going to afford that? I mean, are you trying to pressure poor black people again? But so that is a piece of information that you have to unlearn, so that I would not go by what the research told me in terms of what they are accustomed paying or what they say they can pay. I am going with a quality standard. I am telling them that, look, this calls for a 5,000 US intervention. Now, when you tell them that, they're going to lean back and say, well, you know all you're playing, you know, we can't afford it. That is not the point. The point is that if it takes a 5,000 US intervention, how are they going to raise those resources? Is it that they're going to come up with 2,000 US worth of internally generated services? In other words, is their management budget going to come up to 2,000 US? Because remember, they have been costing those things before. So they're seeing 5,000 US as 5,000 US they have to have in cash to pay to get this thing done. Whereas over the years, they have had caterers, managers, project implementers working for free without having put any value on it. So they don't know how much they're capable of raising or providing. And then you have to be prepared to help them write the proposal to get the resources. So let's go back to this, to the project at the core of this course. None of the CSOs in Grenada would have come up with the idea of having a consultant or a group of consultants look at all the CSOs in Grenada that were willing to tell the consultant what are some of their needs, assuming that the consultant could identify them and tease them out, right? And then partner with TAMCC to provide a course to train people to deal with that. That is not the kind of thing that comes up independently from CSOs. So you have to have an outside influence. And I'm saying that your CSO is going to be that kind of outside influence that will tell people, look, this will call for a 5,000 US remedy. but it doesn't mean that you have to have the 5,000 US in cash, right? This is how you go about raising 5,000 US worth of activity. Whether it's a 3,000 US grant from UNDP or from somewhere else, and then you actually cost the contribution of all those people whose skills you never audited. Because remember, that's a new thing you're going to be going to CSOs with it. Because if I remember correctly, when I first spoke to you guys about skills audit, none of you said you belong to any group at all that has ever done anything close to that. Am I incorrect in saying that? Is there anybody here who says anything different now, after a couple of months? Because at the time, none of you were.
You're correct, sir.
Right? So you're bringing a different perspective altogether. So Natasha, thanks a lot for that comment. That don't let the market research limit you, because if you operate on the basis of forecasting by looking back at what people have done before, you're not going to get anywhere. We are involved in foresight, and we want to stand in 2022 and say, what would they have done in 2020 to get us to 2022? And it means dealing in numbers far in excess of what they would have dealt with historically. So that these $1,000 entities who see themselves as $1,000 entities are already 5 and 10 and 20,000 US entities, but they just didn't know how to articulate it and how to measure it. And that is where you come in. That's where your CSO comes in. All right?
So we always benchmark. So we benchmark at the ideal.
Yeah. Because otherwise, there'll be no use for us. If we're just going to rehash what has been done before, then we could as well go out of business.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. Anybody else?
Good evening, Mr. Maxime.
Hi, Nicholas, no Richardson.
Richardson.
Richardson. Okay, good. I can see it. I can see it properly. Comment? You have a comment to make?
Actually, I wanted to find out something about unfilled needs.
Mm-hmm.
I was wondering, within a CSO, does that entail, like, if you do it in the project proposal, does it mean that need will still be unfilled?
Yeah, the classic definition of an unfilled need is the organization doesn't know what they need to operate more effectively, right? As opposed to a felt need. A felt need would be something like leadership. They may say, we've looked at how this group is being led, and we really feel we could do with some leadership training, because they recognize that need for increased leadership training. What an unfelt need could be something as simple as what we were just discussing, a skills audit. They never saw the need, they weren't thinking along those lines at all. So that was always an unfelt need. But really, what they need to do is to get a skills audit and see, just what all these people who are in the group can do or have done in the past that you can now put together, right? So that would pass as an unfelt need. So that would never be in the list of demands or the list of or the things that they request. That's the definition of an unfelt need. An unfelt need is something that, as I said, by definition, you need it, but you don't know you need it. All right? Cool? Cool, Richard? Your mic is still muted. Richard, I didn't hear you.
Sorry. Yeah. Sorry. I was wondering, even though it's an unfelt need, then when you do all the skills audit, I'm wondering, do you have to update your project proposal, or your project proposal stay just like that?
No. It's not a matter of updating your project proposal. The thing is that if it's an unfelt need, it wouldn't even register. You wouldn't even have it mentioned. Once it becomes a felt need, then it's mentioned in the proposal as something that you want to have addressed.
Okay, right.
Yeah. Cool.
Thanks.
No problem. Anybody else? Before I go on to the last 2 points. Okay. So 8 is related to what we just talked about, which is the budget. right? Because you can't have a marketing plan and not know how much you're prepared to spend on it. And again, as you will hear, hopefully when some of the other more knowledgeable people come to do lectures with you, to do sessions with you, you cannot work on a budget by starting off saying that, I can't afford this, we can't afford to do this. Find out what the budget is first, and then see how you can tackle it, right? See what is required. If the marketing plan requires a seminar or a training session or an awareness building session, you may very well tell yourself, well, how are we going to be able to afford that, but we can't get trade center. I mean, where we going to use, what venue we use? No, you do it, cost it, and then you start whittling away at how you're going to do it. Some of the very CSOs that keep saying they have no assets may have access to a community center or some place that you could use. So there's a line of your budget that comes off already. All right? So do not be a scaredy cat when it comes to doing the budget. Do up the budget. Of course, the reality will set in. If it comes out that you've been so extravagant that you come up with $100,000 budget for the marketing plan, then clearly you can't have $100,000 budget marketing plan for an organization that only turning over $50,000 a year. I mean, clearly, you're hanging your hat a little too high at some point. So then instead of the grandiose plan you had, you might want to scale it back, right? But you want to start off knowing what it takes to get it done the way you feel it should be done first. 9, the marketing goals. Establish quantifiable marketing goals. In other words, this means goals that you can turn into numbers. You want to measure how many people you're going to reach, how many organizations you want to reach, right? So, sorry, Natasha, you're asking something?
I was saying smart goals.
Yep. Measurable. Yep. All right. And then the 10th one is the monetary results. So you want to test and analyze. You want to identify the strengths that are working for you. You want to survey your customers. You want to track your performances. You want to track the visitors to your website, because you may well be using a website and people already only going to your Facebook page. So if you're spending a lot of money to have the website professionally updated, maybe you should spend that money on Facebook itself. Otherwise, some other medium, right? And then you want to be sure that your efforts are generating results commensurate with the amount of money you're putting out. Remember I said about a $100,000 plan? If you put out a $100,000 plan for a $50,000 activity, that doesn't make any sense at all. Because it means your marketing is too broad. I mean, you have such fancy systems that you're reaching people in Australia and think who will never come to your courses, because these are courses that they want to conduct for grader and for Grenadians and people in Petit Martinique and Carriacou. So you want to be sure that you're targeted, focused, and that you get the proper return on your investment. So with that, my peeps, we have been at it for more than an hour and a half, and as I say, I know it's difficult to take me for 2 hours, but we're fast approaching the 2-hour mark. You have the other section deals with the 7 points, which is just a collapsing of the 10 points that was raised in this first article. You have access to it. You have access to the 4 notes that I gave you before. And of course, there'll be I'll post this, the recording of tonight's class by about 10, 11 o'clock tonight, once I get a chance to download everything.
So just before you go, right?
Yeah, we have time for questions.
I just want to go back to budgeting a little, because somebody once told me, budget is not money you have, but it's what you intend to raise to meet your commitments and so forth that you plan to to put out. So based on what you're explaining, I'm getting that concept. So in our planning, we plan to do the ideal. This is what we need to achieve. This is what we need to do. We find all of our pricing that's attached to the task and stuff that we have to carry out.
Right.
And then now we get to see, okay, we already have $10,000 in the bag, so we need to see where we can source probably the next $25,000 that we need to execute that for our annual budget that was set.
There you go. But sorry to cut across you, but just remember that while you're doing all of this, you already have an idea of what type of returns you're looking for, you know. So if the returns that are projected is less than $35,000, you really should be doctoring that plan down. Agreed? Right. Okay. Good. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, I think I understand what you're saying. I just wanted to make sure that I understood it.
Yeah. Let me repeat. So you're doing the budget based on a realistic assessment of what is needed to complete your marketing plan and to achieve the goals that you have set yourself. So if your goals are to reach 70 of the 300 registered CSOs in the country, right? Then you should have done your market research properly to make sure that those 300 names that aren't only just 300 names that are on the books, and there are already 300 active and CSOs out there. You may very well find that there are only 100 CSOs out there. So whereas in the beginning you were looking at 70 out of 300, you might not be looking to, you know, contacting 45 out of the 100 might be the same type of percentage that you were looking for before. All right. So you align the budget with the goals and the numbers that you're expected. So you don't want to come again. Sorry to harp on this example, but you don't want to have $100,000 marketing plan to generate $50,000 worth of business. All right, that doesn't make any business sense at all. And although it's a non-profit, it doesn't mean it has to run at a loss. Remember, you have to generate revenue, right? Because as this very famous economist in Trinidad, Frank Barsotti said, when your expenditure exceeds your income, your upkeep becomes your downfall. All right, so you must always be sure that the expenditure you're coming up with, right, is manageable and is within reach of your resources. Otherwise, you know, you just won't be sustainable. And that is the name of that's the name of the game in your CSO. It's about sustainable community development. Okay?
Can I say one more thing, sir?
Yeah, I got it.
So in between all of this here, we have to be constantly, well, first of all, we have to analyze what we're doing as well. And then we have to have constant evaluation throughout all of these processes, because that can keep us, you know, in check and make sure that we're on par and on track with what we're doing. And then even if it be too along with the budget, we might even have to hire a consultant, you know?
Yeah.
Just in the event that, well, not in the event, because we would have done our skills audit. So just maybe we might not have an expert or somebody who's experienced enough on the team, then we may have to hire.
Yeah,
you know,
and that you put out as part of the budget as well.
Part of the budget, yes.
But as I say, but you don't want to bring in a $50,000 consultant to generate $5,000 worth of.
No. And that's why I take notes here. When I put in down what you said, I put generating positive returns, and I put in brackets profitable.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because as I say, you know, it must generate revenue, right? Although profit is a dirty word for the CSOs, revenue is not a dirty word, right? And you want to be sure that your revenue always exceeds the expenditure. Because as the man said, when the expenditure exceeds your income, your upkeep becomes your downfall. As simple as that, right? And it's not sustainable. Any other questions?
Yes, sir. I have a question. That thing itching me. I don't want to be sounding like a broken record.
Mhm.
But where does a directory fit into all of that in regards to our organization? Let me explain, because I would have brought up that before in a couple of classes, right?
Mhm.
And it kind of nagging in the back of my head because I'm seeing it in my mind's eye. Oh Lord.
What direction? What direction are you talking about?
Okay, because like for example, when you were speaking there in regards to the 300 CSOs that is
Oh,
included
that
and
burning document.
actually,
Yeah.
and then all of them is not functioning
Right.
and so forth. It might just be 100 that is within our organization that is actually up and running and functioning and so forth.
Right.
And I'm thinking in line of our CSO now that we are responsible to, help them with their sustainable practices and so forth.
Mhm.
Then we would only know that if we have a directory or log information after research is done in
Oh, okay.
regards
I
to.
don't understand what.
So I'm not sure if I'm bringing it across right, but somehow I'm just seeing it in my mind's eye, but I can't explain it. And don't ask me what my mind's eye is.
No. We. When I say we, I mean you guys and your CSO, which which I will glimpse at every now and then, but I'm not part of. Your CSO will have to have a database, right, of the current active CSOs, their areas of interest. All that will be in part of the market research, right? I remember this is not something that you're going to have to do every year. Once you do it the first time, what you'll be doing is just fine tuning it, maybe every 6 months or every year, depending on how fast these organizations slack in and slack out, because as you know, there are a number of organizations that pop up and then you just don't hear anything about them again after that, right? But you want to have a database that gives you an idea of their mission. Because if you're going to be of service to them, then you must know what their mission is. Or if they have a mission at all. Or if they have a clearly articulated mission at all. Because part of your first job with them might be to really help them develop a proper mission and vision. So that might be your first interaction with any of these groups that you're going to help. Might be to just do that. Or something as basic to us now as a skills audit. This membership that you say you have, these 25 people that you say you have, what can they do? What have they done? What are they doing right now? And is it really 25 people in this organization? It's just you and your cousin looking to apply for a UNDP small grant proposal, which happens, as I'm sure you know, right? So that puts pressure on them as well. So now that we have a mission and we have a directory and we have a database, then we can start looking at, how many people are really in this group and what are the skills that they're bringing to bear. And is it only just you and your cousin and your sister, or is it a genuine civil society organization, right? What do your minutes look like? What do your bylaws say? What's the term for executive? What's the quorum for meetings? So that issue that the fisherman described in Guam would not have been an issue at all, because we have had clear bylaws as to what constitutes a meeting and the frequency at which the books have to be disclosed to the membership, right? Stuff like that. Okay. Other questions? Yeah, sorry. Richard, was it Richardson or Vonnie?
Yeah,
Vonnie.
let Richard go.
Yeah, Richardson. You had a question? Hello.
You seem to leave us.
I think we lost Richardson.
Right.
Okay, Vonnie, go ahead.
Yes, I just want us to go back to that passing comment about budget approach. Because I think maybe culturally, I don't know, maybe my ignorance, we were taught to begin in mind with a budget of $500 and work from there go out, right? And you saying that let's begin with how much we need and work from there.
Yeah, what is the logic behind you starting with $500?
I mean, simply
Why not
because
1,000?
I guess usually it's because of
Because they see themselves as poor organizations.
organizations. That's what I'm saying. Yes.
Yep. Well, I disagree thoroughly with that. And as I said, I hope that over the past couple of months, I've been able to show you guys how that is not a valid argument. And it doesn't reflect the reality. There are very few organizations operating in Grenada that operating on $500. They're operating on a lot more than that. It's just that it hasn't been costed properly, right? And when Miss Mildred starts earning her money, and when Tanti Lynette starts charging you for the use of her downstairs, and you start seeing what it costs to have a meeting room and what the catering costs and all those things are, then you realize that this little group you're running here is not a $1,000 group at all, right?
I think the important thing again goes back to that famous word, the marketing.
Yep.
You begin with what I call a proper budget, whatever that is, and then you clearly articulate how we will fill the gaps where there are gaps.
Yep. Definitely. As I said, if I notice how low down that comes up, because by that time you would have already known how many CSOs, in our case, how many CSOs you're targeting, right? So if you only have 10 CSOs to reach, you shouldn't really be spending $60,000 to reach 10. You could go to those 10 yourself and just, use somebody RAV4 and just drive around to all 10 and get over most of it there. So having gone through all those steps before and have an idea of the numbers, then the budget starts to make sense. So that whether you start at 500, you start at 1,000, you start at 15,000, doesn't really matter, because it is what you need to get to the goals that you have set. And the goals come before the budget. Not the budget before the goals. The goals come before the budget. Yeah? Anybody else? Sorry, who was next?
No, I was saying welcome back, Miss Mildred. A long time we didn't hear from her or hear about her.
Definitely. Because you all didn't want to pay the woman her money, you see. And now with all kind of stimulus packages and things, as we talk about the stimulus package, do you see how important it is to have records? If you had no way of showing that, look, I used to make $200 a week selling what I sell, where I sell it. When you go to the government asking for financial support, how do you justify 70% of your expected income, if that is what the stimulus says you should get, when you have no records at all? You see what happens to all the people who are off the books, not paying national insurance, not declaring their income. Then once you're not a salaried person, it becomes difficult for any government or any agency trying to help you to determine what 70% of your income will be if you don't know what your income was in the first place. I'm just saying those are some of the pitfalls. Those are some of the pitfalls of being independent and not wanting the government to know your business, to tax you and whatnot. But there's always a downside to it. And so many people who are complaining that they're not being supported, they're not being helped, is because there's no easy way to quantify, how much assistance they should really be getting. Because just like flood loans in Trinidad, as I keep telling you, every flood loan in Trinidad, the cabbage was always bearing. It was never a crop of cabbage 1 day old or 2 days old, and it was always about to bear, about to be reaped, and it's about $60,000 they lost. So the flood loan had to be, the flood relief had to be $60,000. It's a boss is a whole acre of cabbage I had here, and if you see how nice them cabbage was, boss, and then the rain come and everything melt, right? Without proper documentation, without an extension service that would have passed there a couple of weeks ago and realized that you really did have an acre of cabbage there, because one thing with flood damage in Trinidad is it eliminates everything. You don't see nothing, you don't see stock, nothing. Yeah? When you go there, you just see a blank piece of land because, boss, the flood water come and melt everything, right? Everything gone, everything missing, right? So this is where, the newer technologies and things are going to make a very big difference. And I hope we get a chance to talk about some of the digital tools that you guys will be using by the time your organization is up and running, like blockchain and digital currency, blah, 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 blah. All the things that I know a little bit about that I will get proper experts to come and talk to you about as you go forward. Right? Starting with the lady from Waves Inc. All right? Any other questions? Comments?
Good night again. I think I would have to ask my question another day because my house is so noisy.
Oh, okay.
So,
right. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you can
So,
text it to me.
Bonnie, I wasn't that. I was just trying to keep down the noise.
Yeah, text it to me on WhatsApp. And say that on WhatsApp, okay?
But then, sir, I have an observation, right?
Mm-hmm.
I remember a time in class we was discussing how the government and so forth will capture a cross-section of persons in regards to getting them to pay taxes and and all of those things. And even during the COVID period, together with the stimulus packages and the benefits that certain businesses can get, I noticed that came across with people like the hairdressers and the barbers and stuff, that they have to start paying the NIS and all of those things in regards now. So the government now will start generating resources from them in order for them to get the assistance and all of those things. And I say, look at it. So I spoke about that in class. They always use a major event or some kind of strategy to actually win a cross section of person.
Because let's face it. I mean, the money for the stimulus package isn't coming out of thin air. The government not just going to just do so and grab it out of the sky. It is coming from appropriations from the last budget. It means they're shifting around stuff, right? And of course, borrowing and getting some grants here and there. But they're shifting around other stuff. And going forward, if any of this is coming out of NIS funds or any of those kinds of funds, you have to replenish it. And I mean, you would have already seen that NIS contributions have to be raised. Otherwise, the thing is going to literally run out of cash by the time some of you guys are, ready to retire, right?
And so what this has shown, highlighted that how this works against the individual. So a lot of them, they cry now, they cannot get aid to assist them, no food, and it's because of these measures they take or did not even take in terms of managing themselves properly, keeping information, doing records, or even putting together a financial report at the end of the month or even at the end of the year. So
now, as somebody who worked, I worked in banking, development banking specifically, and agricultural development specifically for 10 years. And I can tell you that what has been the major disadvantage for farmers is the fact that they're secretive in terms of, of what they make, so that whenever there's an issue and they have to be compensated, there's always he say and she say, because by their very nature, they tend to not want to have properly displayed records, right? And that's where I'm saying that's where blockchain and some of the other technologies are going to help. And I'm really looking forward to sharing with you guys some of the advances that have been made in digital technology and blockchain and that type of thing. And I think when I get really into the lecture with you guys, because she's working in that environment too, she'll be able to shed some light on it as well. Oh, by the way, it's really Lazarus that I'm hoping to get to talk to you guys. She's manager of runs Waves Inc., which is a major marketing firm here in Grenada. Most of you might.
What's the person name, sir?
Can you repeat?
Really, Lazarus. She used to be Nawasa's marketing manager. She used to be at Digicel and lots of other companies. But she runs her own company. Very, very sharp. So I'm hoping to get her, as I say, for free too. Right? So that's
So why? I hope you remember nothing is free. I just hope.
Oh,
I hope
I'm glad you all picked that. I'm glad you all picked that. That's why I think it's so long, because nothing is free.
Nothing is free.
No. I'm pulling in some personal favors, man. I'm pulling in personal favors. So it's not for free, but just that no cash is going to be exchanged. Payment will be payment.
She'll be one of the first person to have cooperated with our organization, and that is a milestone for her.
Not only that, she is going to benefit. You guys are going to benefit as well. When you put that down on your list of co-brands, see?
Yes.
So far, I'm ahead of you guys. So have no fear. You're going to be very pleased and well positioned when I finish with you guys. As I say, I have big plans for you guys. Really, literally. Okay? Any other comments, questions? Michael, how are you going? You able to make out on the porch there? Michael has both his video and his microphone off apparently. All right.
Michael, gone already, sir.
Yeah. So people, thanks for your attention and time. As usual, I enjoyed myself thoroughly. And I hope we got some work done. Okay?
Yes, we did.
So I'll be posting the recording a little later. Note 5 is already on the WhatsApp group. If you come up with any questions or so, shoot it at the WhatsApp group and I can deal with it there. If not, see you guys on Thursday, God willing. Okay? Be good.
Okay, good evening, everybody.
Thank you, sir.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you and good night.
Night.
Okay. Good night, everybody.
Is that person?
And if you have a stalker in the group, right?
Bye,
Nice, Shamsi.
I know.
No, I see a new face for the first time in the group there with a red t-shirt, but I had to leave.
No, that Camille?
No. Oh, yes, come on. You change your hairstyle.
Camille, like Camille.
You see why I tell you we have to have the camera?
Yes, that's
Camille, you had to be on FaceTime all the time.
Yep.
All right. Good night, guys.
That's the only way I can put your
Good
present.
night, Shamsi. Take care.
Okay.
all right.
All right.
Everyone.